And welcome to the Gay Liberation Network here on Chicago Access Network Television. I'm Andy Thayer, and with me here tonight is Bob Schwartz, a longtime member, a civil rights activist.
Long time.
for many years. Bob marched with Dr. King both here in Chicago, which was a pretty scary thing to do back in the day, with bricks and rocks thrown at him, as well as down in Georgia, I believe.
Selma,
Alabama. Yeah. And we're going to be talking about the issue of Palestine, as you saw from the start of your show here. For many people just watching the news here in this country wouldn't even know that literally 11,000 plus Palestinians have been injured as they have tried to march without weapons back to their homes, basically, and have been met with sniper fire from Israel. I believe over 50 people have been murdered as part of these attacks by Israel on Palestinians. So we're going to be talking...
I think it's more than 100, actually.
More than 100?
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously hard to get information out because of the news blackout. But we're going to be trying to talk about some of that here tonight. Before we go further into the program, though, I'd like to call your attention to what the Gay Liberation Network here in Chicago is going to be doing about it. We're going to be having a Pride Parade contingent. You'll see there, it's about Israel, stop killing Palestinians. And that's going to be coming up on the last Sunday in June, meeting at 11 a.m. in front of the Target store in Uptown. That's 4466 North Broadway, just a long block south of the Wilson Red Line L stop. We're going to be doing this for a number of reasons. First and foremost, the United States is by far the biggest giver of weapons to Israel, is by far the biggest recipient of U.S. arms aid, in spite of being a very small country. And that alone should be a reason why people in the United States should be concerned about this violence being done with U.S. aid. But also the gay community has a particular angle on this, because Israel in recent years has tried to market itself as gay-friendly. I was watching the news about the recent Supreme Court decision, and up popped a pop-up ad advertising gay tourism in Israel. This is very offensive to me as a gay man, because it's akin to saying that that United States crimes against African Americans, Latinos, and others in terms of racist crimes should be excused because we've won more marriage equality in this country. Bob, what's your take on all this?
Well, it's a fact that the Palestinian struggle is not on the human rights agenda. I mean, if the killing of over 100 people,
and arms fire, very deliberately.
Yeah, well, and live ammunition being used, at least 100 people killed, many hundreds injured.
Thousands.
Yeah, and I mean, if this were going on anywhere else, the media and the politicians in the United States would be all over it.
If this was going on in Europe, for example.
Yeah, if and what happened in South Africa finally became a human rights issue after people complained and demanded that action be taken. Mm-hmm. But the Palestinian struggle is still not on the human rights agenda, and there are efforts underway. This program mm-hmm. And our contingent in the Pride Parade are small examples of efforts being taken to try to put the Palestinian struggle on the human rights agenda.
Well, and with that, let's just do a little Palestine 101 here. Coming up on your screen, and I apologize to those watching on Facebook Live, you see a picture of Palestine in 1946, the way it looked before the 48 partition. And then you fast forward, and just 1 year later, you see Palestinians getting far less land. That's the area in green there. You fast forward again to 1967, and the area given over to Palestinians is dramatically less. And then you go to 2010, and mere fragments, and actually it's gotten worse than what you see on the screen there, because Benjamin Netanyahu the other day announced yet more settlements, and literally half the population of that whole region there, which is Palestinians, mainly Muslim and Christian, are relegated to these tiny fragments of the worst land, not unlike what we saw with Native Americans, driven off into reservations. Then you compare it to the archetypal situation of apartheid, namely what Bob was talking about with South Africa, and the situation's pretty dramatic. For those who are watching on Facebook Live, again, I apologize. We have up on our screen here a picture of the tiny areas of the area of Palestine that are confined for Palestinian settlements, and then the right next to it, South Africa, and the tiny portions that were available to black Africans. You wanted to say a few things.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out here that the narrative of Israel and the Palestinians does not begin with Hamas rockets. Mm-hmm. The Israeli government and their apologists here in the United States, they're lapdogs in the media and the politicians of both parties. The Democrats are just as bad on this as the Republicans are. They want to talk about the violence that is directed at Israel. I mean, it's minuscule compared to the violence that is directed against the Palestinians. Yep. There's no equality here. Mm-hmm. And also, it's important to point out that the violence didn't begin with Hamas rockets. It began in the mid-1940s with the
seizure of land.
Seizure of land by the Israelis, by Israeli terrorist groups like the Irgun mm-hmm. and the Haganah. These were groups that drove Palestinians off the land, killed thousands of them, and that's where the violence started.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this was ethnic cleansing. This was, if you're not Jewish, get the hell out of here. And in this case, the victims were Palestinians. Some 1.3 million of the 1.9 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip today are themselves refugees from the 1948 borders of Israel, or descendants of them. Literally, way over half the people living in this tiny open-air prison called Gaza, a territory that has been projected to run out of fresh water literally within months, because sewage treatment plants have been destroyed, electricity is totally erratic for water treatment, and it really has become a rotting prison because of the blockade, not only by Israel, but primarily by Israel, but also U.S. allied Egypt, where the dictator there, a man by the name of Sisi, whose coup was supported by Barack Obama. This siege of Gaza is totally illegal under international law. Not that the United States cares about international law, but it should bear noting that the United States is very big about insisting on international norms when it comes to everyone else, except for, of course, itself. But you were talking a little bit earlier, Bob, about this whole situation of the bipartisan support for Israel. I want to pick up on that note in just a second, but I'd also like to remind those of you who are watching on television, that telephone number at the bottom of your screen, the 312-738-1060 number. If you'd like to ask us a quick question or make a brief comment, please call that number, and we'll try and get you on the air. Again, it's got to be brief, but again, 312-738-1060, and our man in the booth, Paul Avery, will help us out and get you on the air if we can. But let's go back to this whole situation of the political parties in this country and their unanimity in supporting Israel no matter how many land thefts go on. We saw this under not only the Republican administrations, but under Barack Obama. We see it continuing under Trump. And it should be a wake-up call in my mind that a vile racist, an unabashed racist like Donald Trump, is this close with Israel, this close supporting the settlement land thefts. And what does that say about people who think that Israel's okay? That this idea of an exclusivist state for one religion is okay. We here in this country, as gay people, have fought for decades to prevent the religious right from deeming this country to be a Christian nation. Because under that definition, everyone who isn't their version of Christianity is second-class citizens. And that's exactly what has transformed in Israel. And you can't have a true democracy in that situation.
Yeah, and the Senator Dick Durbin launched his career for Congress by defeating a Republican who was actually pro-Palestinian. He's still alive today, and I'm blocking on his name, but this was how Durbin got...
Yeah, Porter, I believe, wasn't it?
No. But anyway, this is how Durbin got his career started. And of course the Zionist lobby, the pro-Israel lobby, will spend whatever is necessary to defeat anyone who dares to raise a voice in support of the Palestinians. And Durbin has been at the head of the pack of people who will not raise a voice in opposition to the Israeli government, no matter how brutal their treatment of the Palestinians might be.
Well, and speaking of brutality, there are many people in this country with good reason who look at Trump's border wall and the billions he wants to throw at it and say, this is racist, this is vile, this is not worthy of any country that calls itself supporting human rights. And they're right. But when it comes to Israel and its border wall, which again, those of you watching on CanTV, this is what it looks like. Barbed wire, huge concrete, carving through Palestinian communities in the West Bank. This is the kind of vile racism on display already in place in Israel. If you oppose a border wall here on the U.S.-Mexico border, then you have to be consistent. Because if you see that one border wall as racist, certainly this racist border law carving through Palestinian territories, mainly in the West Bank, should be seen is the same. And all sorts of people get caught up in it. Here we have a picture, for those of you watching on the television rather than the Facebook, you see Israeli soldiers manhandling a child who looks like he's probably 6 or 7, if that. Yeah. This is the kind of brutality we see against Mexican and other Central American children coming across our own border. Well, this is unfortunately the sort of thing that is being seen by Israel versus Palestinian children over and over again. A number of those dozens of people killed in the most recent Great Return marches, as they call, are children. They're medics. They are journalists, clearly defined, and you'll see the pictures in a few minutes. In fact, why don't we get some of those pictures of the Great Return March up on our screen here. This is one right here. People, again, in Gaza marching towards the border with, quote-unquote, Israel proper, even though Israel controls the whole area. Again, 1.3 million of the 1.9 million in the territories are themselves refugees or descendants of refugees trying to go back to their homes in that so many of them were purged from, were driven out, were ethnically cleansed from in 1948 and going forward. In the United States, yes, same thing. Israel has responded with tear gas and sniper fire over and over and over again. And here's some of the pictures of some of the people that they've killed and seriously wounded. There on your screen, again, clearly defined press people. There was a story that just came out, was confirmed through, I believe it was through morgue or something, that a medic, a female medic on the side supporting the Great Return March was shot in the back, which here in the Chicago, we see that so much of the time versus black youth. And there is a real commonality in there in that Chicago police have gotten extensive training in Israel, and many leading pro-black organizations here in our country recognize those connections and support Palestinian rights, and we believe that LGBTs should do similarly, especially since our community is used as an excuse for supporting Israel.
It should be pointed out also that while the large Jewish organizations, the Anti-Defamation League and so on, brook no criticism of the Israeli regime, increasing numbers of younger Jews in organizations like Jewish Voice for Peace are
supporting Palestinians.
Yeah, they're moving away from this automatic support of the Israeli regime, and as Andy has said, they're now in open support of the Palestinian struggle, and I think this is a very encouraging development. And then there's the BDS campaign that I think we should talk about.
Which is boycott, divestment, and sanctions.
Yes.
Which was a movement that was popularized in the struggle against apartheid, racial segregation in South Africa.
Right.
Say a few words about that, Bob, please.
Well, some entertainers, I'm not particularly conversant when it comes to popular music, but some big name entertainers in the last several years have pointedly said that they will not perform.
Roger Plant, I believe, amongst others, yeah.
Okay, that they will not perform in Israel, and some who were going to perform there have been persuaded not to do so. There's an academic boycott. Some church groups have divested from corporations that are doing business in Israel and or in the occupied territories. The Methodists, the Presbyterians, the Episcopalians, I believe, and United Church of Christ, and others. So there is a
growing movement.
A growing movement.
On the other side is scared of this. They have tried to pass and have been successful in many instances of passing legislation making it illegal to promote or giving big sanctions on organizations, not allowing them to do business with the government and so forth, if they support boycott, divestment, and sanctions. And the ironic thing is that boycotting is a time-honored civil rights strategy. In fact, you look at the boycott of British tea at the start of this own country, the hypocrisy of so many of these Democrats and Republicans supporting this anti-BDS legislation. The hypocrisy is breathtaking. But I think particularly forget the Republicans for a moment, those who say in the Democratic Party that they support human rights, that they oppose everything that Donald Trump is doing in this country, and yet they support Israel, they support Israel's apartheid wall, they support arms shipments to this brutal regime killing people. That is rank hypocrisy, and it needs to be called out for such. And it's unfortunately left to, shall we say, tiny voices such as ours on this cable TV program, this Facebook Live program we got going over here. We need to get the word out because the politicians are not going to carry forth this message. And we've got an excellent opportunity to do that. And I'd like to bring up on your screen right now just how you can participate in that in a very valuable way. And that's with our Gay Pride contingent coming up here at the end of the month. Again, themed around Israel, stop killing Palestinians. We stand with Palestine. The contingent will be meeting at 11 a.m. Sunday, June 24th in front of the Target store in Chicago's Uptown neighborhood at 4466 North Broadway. You can go to our website. You can contact us if you want to get more information about that. And please do. Bob, one last note.
Yeah, well, let's be clear that you don't have to be gay to participate
Right.
In our contingent. We stand with Palestine. We invite all people to participate who support justice for the Palestinian people.
And that's the whole point, because while Palestinians must and should lead their struggle, we in the gay movement know that we need to lead our struggle. But if we did not have the support of non-LGBTs in winning things such as marriage equality, we would not have won it. And so here's your chance to join a contingent in the Pride Parade. Our message of standing with Palestine, of Israel, stop killing Palestinians, will be seen by over 1 million people. And so this is a way that we can get our message out. We invite you to join that. And with that, unfortunately, we're going to have to say goodbye to you tonight. And we want to thank all those who made tonight's show possible. People like our good friend Paul Avery in the booth, Bob Schwartz here. And thank you for watching tonight.
Good night.